Bernie was able to get as far as he did because people trusted him. That was the bottom line. He had a 50-year track record. So people thought, okay, this guy's the real deal. And I think that was a large reason why he was able to gain. Of course, it was his platform. But, Marianne Williamson took over his platform, and she ain't going anywhere. It's his track record. It says 50 years. So you have to be principled. However, I do believe you have to be strategically flexible.
Yes, yes.
In the case of your campaign, and this will be a disagreement, and that's fine,
Sure.
Dr. West tolerates agreeing to disagree. I do not believe you have to start off saying we're going to the end no matter what. I understand where that sentiment is coming from, but I do believe it's perfectly possible. You get to October, you see that you can't get more than 20% of the vote. That's very optimistic, but I do believe it's possible. You see that you can't get more than 20% of the vote. It's perfectly reasonable among adults, and we have to treat the constituency as adults, not children, to simply say to them, I'm not going to get more than 20% of the vote, which means I'm not going to win. However, I think we can put forth 4 demands and make those demands non-negotiable. You say to Biden, you could start off with a simple demand. You got to free Julian Assange. That has to be, that's a non-negotiable demand. Number 2, and I see it all the time, that student debt has destroyed a generation. It has destroyed a generation. You promised to get rid of it before, you didn't. You're going to have to make an ironclad promise to do it this time. Well, that's a separate issue. You put forth 4 demands. You say these are not negotiable. Either you give in to those demands or you don't get my 20%. You give in, you get my 20%. Now, some people will say, of course they're going to say yes, and then they're not going to keep their promise.
Exactly.
That's okay, because it's not over with Election Day. That was the big problem with Bernie. He ended it on Election Day. Cornell can still say now, you broke your promise, we're going to fill the streets. And people will respond to that, because a promise was made, the promise was broken, and the struggle continues. So I think we have to be principled, but not foreclose possibilities in the future. The most important thing is you've got to be honest with people. Because if you say, I'm going to the end no matter what, then it precludes you from making strategic decisions further on. Just be honest at the beginning. You say to people, no, it is not a wasted vote. Because the more people vote for me or say they're going to vote for me, the more leverage I have in negotiating with Biden in October or the beginning of November. So for the left, it's a win-win. If you look like you might actually carry the day in November, then go for it. But if it looks like you can't break the 20% threshold, then you present non-negotiable demands. If they say no, buddy, you screwed it, not me. I was willing to give you those 20%, but you don't want to give them these demands, you lose me. The other thing is, I do believe there are real possibilities now. For example, if you look at the latest polls, 70% of the age group 18 to 34 oppose the war, oppose Israel's genocide against Gaza. That's an extraordinary percentage. I say Dr. West can win a good 50 of that 70%. Then there is 70% of the Democratic Party. 70% of the Democratic Party say they oppose that war. It's not a war, it's a genocide. Oppose it. Dr. West, I think he can win a large chunk of that group also. You know, it's the first time in American history that a foreign war, which we are not directly involved in, has actually had an impact on a domestic election. Namely, Biden is hurting because of what's happening in Israel and what's happening in Gaza. So there is a real possibility of transforming that discontent into support for Dr. West. So, and as Dr. West has said many times, it's a very fluid situation right now. We don't know if Biden really will run in November.
Run out of gas to do an LBJ and say, I decide I will not run. Trump be on his way to jail, and red tie and all. And then here come the B team for the Democratic Party. Beneath mediocrity, a lot of vitality, pure ambition, very little courage. Here come the B team of the Republican Party. My God.